Have you ever noticed that subtle shift in her eyes, that slight hesitation in her voice, or the way she suddenly seems distant yet drawn at the same time? You think she's pulling away, avoiding you, or playing games, but that's not what's happening. She's terrified. Terrified of falling for you. And most men will never understand this because it's invisible, silent, and profoundly psychological. Today, I'm going to reveal the truth behind that tension, why her mixed signals aren't rejection, why her distance is not disinterest, and how female psychology is wired to react to men who evoke real emotional impact. Most men completely misread these signals. They assume that when a woman hesitates, she's uninterested. They panic, overcompensate, or chase validation. They flood her messages, they over-explain, and they try to fix something that isn't broken. But the truth is far more nuanced. When a woman acts distant yet attentive, reserved yet engaged, it's not about avoiding you. It's about her mind trying to process feelings she's afraid of acknowledging. That's how female psychology works. Her emotional system is designed to protect her from vulnerability, and when you trigger real feelings, that protective instinct often masquerades as resistance. You might be wondering, how can you tell the difference between fear and avoidance? Here's the subtle distinction. Avoidance is consistent, predictable, and often emotionally flat. Fear, on the other hand, shows signs of internal conflict. She may flirt, tease, or seek small moments of connection, but then retreat. She's drawn to your energy, but she hesitates to fully engage because the feelings you evoke are intense, unfamiliar, or threatening to her emotional equilibrium. Most men interpret this retreat as rejection, and that's exactly why they miss the deeper truth. Let's talk about what triggers this fear. When a man exudes presence, confidence, and authenticity, qualities most men struggle to maintain consistently, he creates a psychological impact that women cannot ignore. It's not about looks, money, or status. It's about energy. It's about being fully embodied in yourself, emotionally sovereign, and magnetic without even trying. Women sense this on a subconscious level. They notice it in subtle ways, how you speak, how you carry yourself, how you respond to situations. And when that energy sparks feelings they're not prepared to handle, fear emerges. Here's a critical insight most men never realize. Fear and attraction is a sign of emotional power, not rejection. When a woman's emotions fluctuate around you, it's because you are affecting her inner world in a way no one else does. Most men mistake this for disinterest or playing hard to get, but it's actually a signal that you are touching deep, often unacknowledged desires. And this is where psychology gets fascinating. Her mind protects her by creating distance, hesitation, or subtle resistance, giving her time to reconcile these intense feelings internally. Now, consider this scenario. She laughs at your jokes, touches your arm lightly, but then withdraws slightly, avoids eye contact for a moment, or changes the topic. Most men will panic and think they did something wrong, but that moment of hesitation is not rejection. It's her subconscious signaling that she's processing emotional intensity. Your energy has created a ripple, and she's balancing curiosity, desire, and fear all at once. Understanding this is the key to seeing her behavior in a completely different light. Here's another layer most men overlook: the paradox of attraction. Women are drawn to emotional depth, intensity, and confidence, but those same qualities can trigger fear because they require vulnerability. Most men avoid emotional presence, thinking it's safer to be neutral, predictable, or easygoing. But when you show authenticity, emotional alignment, and confidence, you evoke real feelings, and real feelings are unpredictable, powerful, and sometimes frightening. That's why she may act distant even as she thinks about you constantly. The danger for men who misinterpret this is simple. Chasing, overcompensating, or attempting to fix her distance kills attraction. When a woman senses neediness or insecurity, her fear transforms into disinterest. But when you maintain grounded energy, emotional clarity, and subtle presence, her fear shifts from avoidance to attraction. She starts to crave your presence, wonder about your thoughts, and replay your interactions mentally. This is the hidden power of understanding female psychology at a deep level. Most men don't see it because they're trained to focus on surface behavior, text response time, physical proximity, or overt signals. But attraction is far deeper. It's invisible. It's subconscious. It's the mental and emotional imprint you leave in her mind. Fear of falling for you is actually a powerful indicator. She's thinking about you, processing you, and her emotional system is trying to protect her from the intensity she feels. That's the opposite of rejection. That's the start of deep, lasting attraction. Let's explore the internal mechanics. When you trigger fear, her mind goes through cycles. She evaluates emotional safety, questions her own desires, and tests her capacity to handle vulnerability. These cycles manifest as subtle hesitations, micro-responses, or even conflicting behavior. Most men misread this as avoidance, but it's actually her subconscious wrestling with powerful attraction. She's drawn to your energy, but cautious of surrendering too quickly. That's the invisible dance few men understand, and mastering it is the difference between fleeting attention and deep emotional connection. Here's the final point for this section. The men who understand this dynamic don't panic. They maintain composure, project confident energy, and allow her space to process her emotions without pressure. They know that fear is a sign of engagement, not rejection. They speak less, act intentionally, and embody presence. And that is why women think about these men constantly, even when they seem distant. They are creating the right kind of psychological tension, a pull that makes her mind return to them again and again. Ask yourself, when she hesitates, when she acts distant, are you reading fear as rejection, or are you recognizing it as attraction in disguise? That distinction is critical, because once you understand it, you stop chasing, over-explaining, or trying to control her feelings. Instead, you allow her subconscious to process what she feels naturally, while you maintain grounded energy that deepens attraction effortlessly. Now that you understand that hesitation and distance often signal fear, not rejection, it's time to decode the subtle behaviors that women display when they're scared of falling for you. Most men completely misread these signs, thinking they're being rejected or led on, when in reality, they are witnessing the internal conflict of a woman's emotions. These behaviors are micro-signals of interest wrapped in caution, and recognizing them is the key to navigating attraction with psychological precision. Start with the small things, the fleeting glances, the brief touches, the subtle changes in tone. Notice how she laughs at your jokes, leans in slightly during conversation, or mirrors your body language, only to pull back suddenly. These are not inconsistencies. They are her subconscious mind signaling curiosity, desire, and fear all at once. Most men panic at these oscillations, interpreting them as unpredictability or games. But when you understand female psychology, you see that these are precisely the behaviors of someone emotionally invested yet hesitant. Women's fear often manifests as mixed signals. She may initiate contact one day and withdraw the next. She may compliment you and then challenge you in the same conversation. This is not manipulation. It's a protective mechanism. Her mind is processing attraction, evaluating her own vulnerability, and testing whether you are emotionally aligned and trustworthy. Most men fail because they respond reactively. They overanalyze, overmessage, or try to fix her behavior. But the subtle power is in observing without panic and responding with grounded presence. Another critical behavioral cue is her hesitation around physical closeness. She may linger in your proximity, brush against you lightly, or find reasons to touch your arm, yet pull back when intimacy deepens. Again, this is not disinterest, it's fear. Women are wired to regulate emotional intensity through subtle physical boundaries. The closer she feels to genuine emotional attachment, the more cautious she becomes. This is your signal that you are touching something real, something deep enough to evoke protective fear. Most men misinterpret this as rejection, but it's actually a sign of profound attraction. Listen to her words carefully. Often, a woman who is afraid of falling for you will speak with subtle contradictions. She may say she's busy, but leave open tiny windows to connect. She may downplay her interest verbally, but her tone, inflection, and energy reveal a subconscious pull. Most men focus on literal meaning, missing the rich tapestry of signals embedded in energy, expression, and timing. Attraction is invisible. It lives between the words, not in them. Recognizing these patterns allows you to step into alignment with her psychology rather than fight against it. Pay attention to the emotional spikes in conversation. When you say something aligned with her values, beliefs, or desires, notice her micro expressions: a quick smile, a spark in her eyes, a pause before responding. These small, often subconscious reactions are evidence that she is emotionally engaged, yet her mind is processing fear. She's evaluating the intensity of her feelings, questioning the potential for vulnerability, and testing whether you are someone she can fully open to. Men who understand these spikes do not panic, they lean into their presence and maintain emotional clarity. One of the most misunderstood behaviors is playful teasing. A woman who is drawn to you but afraid to fall may challenge you verbally, test boundaries, or inject humor with a hint of provocation. She is probing to see how you handle emotional intensity, how grounded you are, and whether you respond from alignment rather than reactivity. Most men misread this as hostility or disinterest, when in fact, it is a sign of mental engagement. Her brain is creating loops of curiosity and emotional evaluation, and your response determines whether those loops strengthen or weaken attraction. Social cues are another vital layer. When she subtly prioritizes time with you amidst other commitments, makes small efforts to notice you, or glances at you in group settings, these are signs of unconscious interest mingled with fear. She may oscillate between approach and retreat, creating tension and intrigue. Most men misinterpret this as inconsistent interest, but psychologically, it's evidence that you've sparked emotions strong enough to trigger her protective instincts. Now let's talk about timing and pacing. Fear of falling for someone is often most visible in how quickly she allows intimacy, emotional, verbal, or physical, to develop. She may slow interactions, delay responses, or introduce measured distance to process her emotions. Most men misread this as a lack of attraction, but women's brains are wired to protect against vulnerability. The key here is patience and presence. Allow her to process without pressure, maintain consistency in your energy, and respect the oscillation of closeness and distance. Subtle emotional triggers are also critical. Compliments that are emotionally resonant, small acknowledgments of her individuality, and genuine curiosity about her life can spark micro-reactions that engage her mind. The combination of curiosity and emotional resonance triggers the subconscious mental loops that keep her thinking about you. The more you understand this, the more you realize that fear is not rejection, it's attraction in a protective shell. Finally, recognize the paradox. The more she oscillates between engagement and retreat, the more she is emotionally impacted by you. Every pause, hesitation, and withdrawal is a reflection of her subconscious processing of deep attraction. Men who overreact destroy this dynamic. Men who understand it, who maintain presence, confidence, and subtle intrigue, amplify it. They become unforgettable because they navigate the invisible currents of fear, desire, and emotional resonance with mastery. Now that we've uncovered her subtle behaviors and mixed signals, it's time to understand what's happening inside her mind. The emotional mechanics behind her fear of falling for you. Most men never consider this, which is why they misinterpret her hesitation as disinterest or games. But when you see what's really going on psychologically, her pulling away suddenly makes perfect sense, and it gives you the power to respond in a way that deepens attraction instead of destroying it. At the core of female psychology is a simple truth. Women are wired to protect themselves from emotional vulnerability. Falling for a man isn't just about liking him, it's about surrendering to an emotional experience that exposes them to potential pain, disappointment, or loss. This is why hesitation appears. It's her subconscious attempting to evaluate risk while still feeling desire. The more intense her attraction, the more cautious she becomes, because real feelings carry weight. Most men fail here because they see hesitation as rejection and react with panic or overcompensation. Think about it. Her mind is balancing two conflicting impulses simultaneously. One side wants connection, warmth, and emotional closeness. The other side wants safety, control, and emotional stability. When you enter her life as a man who is confident, present, and emotionally magnetic, you trigger both impulses. She is drawn to you, yet afraid. She wants closeness, yet hesitates. She flirts, yet withdraws. That tension, my friend, is attraction in its most psychologically potent form. This fear isn't random, it's triggered by the fact that you are different from the majority of men she encounters. Most men over-explain, chase, or seek validation. You, by contrast, maintain grounded energy, act with intention, and demonstrate subtle emotional power. That contrast is like a spark. It excites her subconscious, creating curiosity, desire, and emotional loops. Every time she retreats slightly, it's not because she doesn't care, it's because her mind is recalibrating how to handle feelings that are unfamiliar but compelling. The interesting part is that her fear often manifests in predictable ways. You may notice subtle resistance in conversation. She changes the subject when things get too personal, she teases or challenges you, she takes small steps toward connection and then retreats. All of this is her brain testing boundaries, evaluating trust, and seeing if you can handle her emotional intensity without panic. Men who misunderstand this tend to overreact, push too hard, or give in to insecurity. That kills attraction instantly. The men who master this dynamic respond with calm, subtle presence. They don't chase, they hold the space in for her to process her emotions naturally. Let's explore the emotional loop in more detail. When a woman is afraid of falling for you, every interaction is filtered through two layers: conscious interest and subconscious fear. Her conscious mind may try to rationalize distance, I'm busy, I'm not ready, while her subconscious is replaying every interaction, evaluating your energy, and wondering what she feels. Most men miss this entirely. They respond to the rational words and ignore the emotional undercurrent. But when you understand the loop, you realize that her hesitation is actually a sign of deep engagement. She is mentally present with you, even when physically distant. Another important principle is emotional contrast. Women are drawn to men who create emotional tension, not predictability. Predictable, safe men are often ignored because they don't trigger any internal processing. You, by being confident, aligned, and subtle in your emotional presence, introduce contrast. She feels drawn to you, but challenged by her own mind. That challenge creates fascination, reflection, and constant mental engagement. She cannot ignore you because her emotional system is activated every time she thinks of you. Timing and consistency are critical here. If she withdraws and you respond with panic, overcommunication, or attempts to control her feelings, you reinforce fear instead of attraction. But if you maintain steady energy, subtle engagement, and calm confidence, you amplify her subconscious pull. Her fear becomes intertwined with desire, curiosity, and admiration. The very hesitation she exhibits becomes a mechanism that draws her closer over time, rather than pushing her away. Let's break it down further. When you enter this dynamic with presence and emotional alignment, you are essentially becoming a safe source of intensity. You create feelings without threatening her subconscious need for stability. She experiences the emotional spark she craves, but without alarm. That's why women think about men like this constantly. They are processing emotional depth, reflecting on interactions, and craving the balance you represent. Most men never trigger this because they are either too bland or too needy. The final insight in this section is critical. Fear in attraction is always proportional to intensity. The more she fears falling for you, the stronger the underlying attraction. Her hesitation, micro-resistance, and oscillating behavior are all proof that your energy matters. The men who panic misinterpret it as rejection. The men who understand it maintain alignment and subtly deepen connection. This is invisible psychology, the hidden truth women are never taught to express and men rarely understand. Now it's time to move from understanding to action. You know that her hesitation isn't rejection, it's fear of falling for you. You've seen the subtle cues, the brief touches, the micro smiles, the oscillation between closeness and retreat. You understand that her fear is evidence of emotional engagement, not disinterest. But knowing this is only half the battle. The next step is how to respond in a way that deepens attraction without triggering her protective instincts. This is where most men fail, and where mastery in female psychology makes the difference between being forgotten and being unforgettable. The first principle to master is emotional presence over effort. Most men respond to her hesitation by over-communicating, trying to convince her of their value, or chasing validation through constant texts and calls. This destroys attraction because it overwhelms her subconscious processing and signals insecurity. Instead, your goal is to create a steady, grounded presence. Be calm, confident, and subtly engaging. Speak with intention. Move through her oscillation without reacting to it. The very act of maintaining composed energy sends a signal that you are aligned, emotionally sovereign, and trustworthy, all qualities that reduce fear while amplifying attraction. Next, focus on curiosity and intrigue. Women are wired to engage with men who spark mental and emotional loops. When she hesitates or withdraws slightly, this is not a rejection. It's an invitation for her subconscious to process your value and your energy. You can leverage this by introducing subtle, memorable interactions that trigger thought without pressure. Short, meaningful comments, small, playful challenges, or emotionally resonant gestures create mental bookmarks in her mind. She will replay these moments, often without realizing why, and this keeps her thinking about you. Most men overcomplicate this with lengthy explanations or trying too hard to impress. The simplest gestures, delivered with the right energy, are the most powerful. Another critical technique is controlled emotional contrast. Women are drawn to emotional intensity, but too much too soon triggers fear that overwhelms attraction. The key is pacing. You create engagement by alternating between connection and slight emotional distance, without manipulation. For instance, a confident, aligned man may show warmth and interest in conversation, then calmly allow space without over-explanation. This contrast sparks curiosity and desire while giving her subconscious room to process emotions safely. Most men fail here because they either push too hard or retreat completely, breaking the emotional loop. Physical cues are equally important. Subtlety and timing are key. Light, appropriate touches, confident posture, and direct yet non-threatening eye contact communicate presence, interest, and emotional safety simultaneously. Women read these cues subconsciously, and when aligned with your verbal energy, they create micro-signals that reinforce attraction without triggering fear. Avoid overdoing this. Too much physical pressure too soon can collapse the loop, while absence of presence diminishes engagement. Mastery is in the balance. Language matters, but only when it aligns with your energy. Avoid flattery or over-explaining, which signals neediness. Instead, use concise, emotionally resonant words that hint at connection, intrigue, or shared experience. A short, meaningful statement at the right moment can create mental loops that replay over and over in her mind. Combined with presence, confidence, and timing, this makes her think about you constantly without forcing engagement. Most men miss this because they focus on what to say rather than how to make her feel. So, another critical insight is understanding her internal struggle. When a woman pulls away slightly, she's testing whether you can remain grounded and aligned in the face of emotional intensity. She wants to see that you are reliable, confident, and capable of handling her energy without panic. Responding reactively or overcompensating signals instability, which heightens her fear and reduces attraction. Responding from alignment, however, signals emotional mastery and strengthens her subconscious pull toward you. One advanced strategy is to create small, safe emotional challenges. These are subtle, playful, or intellectual nudges that stimulate curiosity and emotional processing. For example, a confident man might lightly challenge her perspective, offer a provocative idea, or introduce a small, unpredictable element in conversation. These challenges create emotional loops without forcing vulnerability, allowing her mind to engage naturally and repeatedly with you. Most men fail here because they either avoid challenge entirely or approach it clumsily, triggering defensiveness rather than intrigue. The final layer is consistency in energy. Women notice patterns subconsciously. Oscillating energy, neediness, or reactive behavior creates uncertainty that can amplify fear and reduce attraction. Steady, confident, emotionally aligned energy, combined with subtle engagement, signals stability while maintaining intrigue. This is the invisible psychology that keeps her thinking about you long after interactions end. It's why some men leave lasting impressions effortlessly, while others are forgotten despite effort, humor, or attention. Here's the key takeaway. Her hesitation is your opportunity, not a setback. Fear of falling for you signals that your presence, energy, and alignment are impactful. By responding with grounded confidence, emotional resonance, subtle intrigue, and controlled contrast, you deepen attraction without triggering avoidance. You become memorable, magnetic, and unforgettable. She thinks about you constantly, not because of pressure, manipulation, or effort, but because you've created a subtle, emotionally compelling imprint in her mind. Ask yourself right now, are you creating emotional loops and subtle intrigue, or are you reacting to hesitation and chasing validation? Comment below with your honest answer. If this perspective opened your eyes, like the video, subscribe, and share it with a friend who needs to understand the invisible psychology behind why women hesitate, pull away, and yet think about a man constantly. Now reflect. When a woman hesitates around you, are you panicking, or are you mastering the invisible dynamics of attraction that make her want to stay in your mind without even realizing it? Your answer is the first step toward becoming the man who leaves a lasting, magnetic impression.